There was a single red stiletto on our staircase. Just one, left at an odd angle on the third step like it had been dropped mid-fight or mid-panic. And right beside it, sitting cold and obvious on the polished wood, was her wedding ring. Not in a box, not in a note, just the ring, face up, like it was watching me. I hadn't heard the door open. I hadn't heard her come back. I didn't even hear her crying. Not until I found her, hours later, curled up on the floor of the guest bathroom with makeup streaked across her face and knees scraped like she'd fallen. But before all of that, before the unraveling, I stood there, staring at that shoe and that ring, wondering if I had just witnessed the silent funeral of our marriage. But let me rewind, just a bit, to 4 hours earlier. She left saying nothing. Literally nothing. Not a fight, not a sigh, not even a fake smile. Just slammed her coffee cup down too hard on the counter, grabbed her purse, and walked out in her green dress like the world owed her something. Like I owed her something. She didn't even take her coat, just threw a denim jacket over her shoulders like it could protect her from whatever she was really running toward. The club. That's where she was headed. I knew because her phone lit up earlier, a name I didn't recognize, with a message that said, "He's already there." He. Not they. Not the girls. Not everyone. Just he. I'd asked her once, months ago, who Micah was. She said, "Just a guy from work." Said it like I was insecure for even asking. Said it like I was being possessive for noticing that she smiled a little too brightly when she read his texts. I dropped it. Because I always drop it. Because being the understanding husband is better than being the jealous one, right? But when she walked out tonight, when she slammed that cup and left without a word, I didn't run after her. I didn't call. I watched. Watched from the upstairs window like a coward as she got into a black car with someone already in the passenger seat. She didn't look back. Just flipped her hair, laughed at something the driver said, and the car pulled away. And for the first time in our entire marriage, I didn't wait for her to come back. I didn't sit on the couch clutching my phone. I didn't warm up food. I didn't scroll through old photos wondering where things went wrong. No, I started packing. Not dramatically, not angrily, quietly, deliberately. I started with the drawer she never opened, where I kept the letters she once wrote me. Then I moved to the bookshelf, the one we argued about when we moved in because I insisted on alphabetical order. Then I stopped at the fireplace. That's where I left the note. And when she returned hours later, stumbling through the front door, sobbing into her hands, barefoot with one heel missing, she didn't find me. She found the ring she'd left behind, and the words I'd finally written after staying silent too long. She didn't call out my name when she came back in. That's how I knew something was off. Dana always made noise. Kicked off her shoes, flung her keys in the dish by the door, maybe hummed a few notes of whatever pop song was still echoing in her ears from the ride home. But that night, silence. Thick, crawling silence. Like even the walls were holding their breath. I was already gone, but I knew exactly what she'd see first. Her heel abandoned on the staircase, and the ring she didn't even remember removing. I'd left them there on purpose. Not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. What she didn't know, and what I never intended to tell her, was that I saw her. Not just from the window. I drove. I told myself I wasn't going to, but when that car pulled away with her in it, something inside me cracked open. I wasn't chasing her, not exactly. I just needed to know if my gut was lying to me. Spoiler, it wasn't. I parked a block from the club. Didn't go in. Didn't need to. There was a VIP patio, dimly lit but exposed just enough. I watched from behind a tree like some pathetic ex in a breakup montage, and sure enough, there she was. Green dress. Laughing like she hadn't laughed with me in years. And him. Micah. His hand was on her lower back. Low. Familiar. Her smile didn't protest. Her body language didn't resist. She leaned into him, not like it was their first time, but like it wasn't even a question. They kissed. Just once. Just long enough for the truth to lodge in my throat like a dry pill I couldn't swallow. I didn't take pictures. I didn't record video. What was the point? This wasn't court. This was a funeral. Our wedding ring was a casket, and I was the one burying it. I drove home in silence. Not a single tear. Not one. Which was weird because I'm the emotional one between us. I cry during movie trailers. I tear up when I see old couples holding hands in the park. But this? It hollowed me out. Like I was watching someone else's life end, and I just happened to be standing in the ruins. Back home, I didn't smash anything. Didn't throw her clothes in bags or burn old photos like some TikTok revenge fantasy. I just packed the important things. A few clothes, my passport, the laptop I bought before she made me switch to joint finances. Then I sat down and wrote the note. Not for her to cry over, not to manipulate her, just so she'd know I didn't vanish without understanding exactly what had happened. Then I left her the ring. She left me with silence. So I gave it back to her. And now? Now I'm here, in a short-term rental 2 towns over, writing this while the heater rattles behind me and my phone keeps lighting up with messages I won't answer. The truth? I don't even know if she regrets it yet. But I know this. The moment she saw that stiletto and that ring and realized I didn't yell, didn't fight, didn't beg, that's when the real panic started. I should have turned my phone off. I thought about it, actually hovered my thumb over the power button, but something in me needed to see her panic. Not out of spite, not revenge, just confirmation. Proof that, even for a second, she understood what she broke. The first call came at 3:42 a.m. I didn't answer. The second followed 30 seconds later. Still didn't pick up. Then the texts came, back to back like rapid fire. Where are you? Why did you leave your things? Troy, this isn't funny. Talk to me. Did you see something? That last one. That told me everything. She knew. Maybe not when she first walked in. Maybe not when she saw the ring and the shoe. But something in that moment, in that awful quiet house without my keys on the counter or my phone charging in its usual spot, it clicked. And now she was spiraling. I watched the bubbles pop up as she typed more. Then disappear. Then start again. Then vanish. Over and over, like she couldn't figure out what version of the truth might keep me from walking out forever. But it was already too late. I lay on the mattress of the rental, barely even a bed. More like a couch someone flattened and pretended was enough for a person to sleep on. I stared at the ceiling and let the phone buzz in my hand. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt this heavy ache in my chest, the kind that doesn't explode, it just hums. Constant. Low. Devastating. She called again at 3:51. Then 3:58. Then 4:04. 7 missed calls by the time I got up and turned on the faucet just to drown out the vibrating. Then a text came through that froze me. I didn't sleep with him. It sat there on the screen like a dare. No apology. No ownership. Just that one sentence. Like she'd reverse-engineered it from 1,000 Reddit threads where women try to spin the moment back in their favor. But the thing is, I never said she slept with him. I never accused. Never shouted. Never even confronted her when she left. I just saw what I saw and left with my silence. And now she was scrambling to defend what I hadn't even voiced. Which told me she had. Or was about to. Or planned to. Or already had, long before I ever looked through that window. At 4:13, she left a voicemail. I didn't listen, but I saved it. I'm not sure why. Maybe because I needed to know I could. Maybe because a part of me, the very last remaining part that still believed in her, or at least believed in the version of her I married, wanted to hear her break. To hear if she cried. If she whispered my name like she used to when we were still in love. But I didn't listen. Not yet. Instead, I turned the phone face down, got up from the mattress, and went to make coffee in a stranger's kitchen that now felt more like home than the place I'd spent the last 7 years in. And that was the moment it hit me. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about the silence that followed. Because sometimes, it's not the cheating that breaks you. It's how easily they go back to pretending they didn't. I cracked. Around 5:12 a.m., while the sky outside turned from navy to bruised purple, I finally gave in. The voicemail had just been sitting there, taunting me, like it knew I didn't have the spine to ignore her forever. I sat on the edge of the couch bed, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, and hit play. Her voice came through shaky, not like crying, more like she didn't know who she was supposed to be in that moment. Troy, please don't do this. I don't know what you think you saw, but it's not what it looked like. I just needed a night out, and yes, Micah was there, but it wasn't. She paused. A breath. Then her voice dropped to something small, like a version of herself I hadn't heard in months. Please come home. We can talk. Please. I'm scared. She was scared. That was rich. For the past year, I'd been the one walking on eggshells. The one trying not to say the wrong thing, ask too much, notice too much. The one who swallowed doubt like medicine, even when it burned going down. But now that the mirror cracked, now that I stepped out of the script and broke the pattern, she was scared. It should have made me feel powerful, or at least justified, but it didn't. It made me feel sick. I tossed the phone on the mattress and went to the window. It faced an alley and a dumpster, and yet somehow the view felt more honest than the ones from our old bedroom, where she hung those overpriced curtains and always insisted on turning the blinds a certain way, as if controlling the sunlight could fix everything else. She texted again while I stood there. This time, it wasn't a lie. It was a photo, a blurry, poorly lit picture of her hand holding the ring. The same ring she'd left beside the stiletto like a dropped lie. Now it was back on her palm, and underneath it, a caption. I didn't mean to leave it like that. She didn't mean to. Of course she didn't. Just like she didn't mean to drift away from me. Just like she didn't mean to start dressing up for someone else, or to spend nights laughing into her phone while I cooked dinner alone. Everything was always an accident with Dana. A misunderstanding. A misread situation. A heat-of-the-moment thing. Never a choice. Except it was. It always was. She chose him. Maybe not explicitly, maybe not in words, but in energy, in effort, in excitement, in the way she smiled when she talked about him, in the way she stopped smiling when she talked to me. I stared at that photo on my screen until my coffee went cold, and then I remembered something. Before she left that night, before the slammed mug, before the door, I'd asked her one simple question while she was getting ready. It wasn't a demand, just a gentle, hopeful ask. Would you want to go out with me next Friday? That place by the river. You said you liked it. She hadn't even turned around, just stared into the mirror, adjusting her earrings, and said, "We'll see. We'll see." Those two words echoed now louder than any voicemail. Because even then, she'd already chosen not to come back. I just didn't know it yet. It was 7:09 a.m. when the knock came. Not a loud, angry bang. Not a subtle, gentle tap. Just 3 solid knocks, spaced too evenly, like she'd rehearsed them in her head on the way over. I didn't move at first. I just sat there on the edge of the rental's saggy couch bed, staring at the front door like it might explode. I already knew it was her. No one else knew where I was. I hadn't told a single soul. But I also knew Dana. She'd find a way. She always did when the control started slipping. And now she was desperate to wrest it back. The knock came again, softer this time. "Troy." Her voice was muffled through the door. "Can we talk?" There was a pause. Then, "Please. I'm not going to yell. I just need to explain." Explain what? That she went out with Micah again? That she wore a dress she used to save for our anniversary dinners, not to impress me, but some coworker who probably didn't even care if she wore a ring or not. I opened the door, but not fully. Just enough for her to see I was there. Her eyes were swollen. Red. I couldn't tell if it was from crying all night or not sleeping at all. She looked wrecked, mascara smudged, hair pulled back like she didn't know what to do with it. But still in that green dress. She hadn't even changed. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice low. Not cold. Just empty. She flinched like I slapped her. "You didn't answer your phone. You just left. I thought something happened." I wanted to laugh. Something did happen. The last piece of trust one had for her got pulled out from under me like a tablecloth in one of those magician tricks. Except everything did fall. The wine glasses shattered. The plates broke. And there was no applause at the end. "I saw you," I said quietly. "At the club. On the patio." Her face paled instantly. No denial. No confusion. Just a frozen look of someone whose secrets finally stopped running faster than the truth. "Troy, I didn't sleep with him," she said again. But this time it wasn't text. It was her voice, trembling in real time. "I swear. I was just confused. I was angry. You and I haven't been." "Don't," I cut in. "Don't make this about us. This was about you. You chose to go there. You chose to meet him. You chose to let him put his hand on you. You chose to kiss him back." Silence. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. Not to let her in, but to make sure she didn't come further. She looked at me, searching for something. Maybe the version of me she thought would fall apart. The version who would still beg, or forgive, or cling to some hope that she hadn't completely torched what we built. But I wasn't that man anymore. I had stood still for too long, and now the ground was moving beneath me. And finally, I was willing to move with it. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "That's the problem, Dana," I said. "You didn't mean anything at all." She opened her mouth like she had more to say, but no words came out. Just this weak exhale, like whatever script she had memorized fell apart the moment she realized I wasn't stepping backward. I stepped past her, Walked right by her down the sidewalk. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just steady. Her head turned slightly, like she didn't know if she should follow or fall to the ground. I didn't look back. Because I finally understood something. The version of me she betrayed? He didn't exist anymore. And she had no idea who she was dealing with now. I didn't plan on going anywhere in particular. I just needed to move. My legs felt too heavy inside that rental, like grief had weighed and it had settled in my joints. So I walked. Past the laundromat that smelled like burnt lint. Past the diner where a waitress was already wiping down tables for breakfast. The cold morning air didn't wake me up. It just reminded me I hadn't actually slept. Somewhere behind me, I heard the soft crunch of her heels on gravel. She was following me, not calling my name, just trailing like someone who didn't know what else to do but couldn't bear to go home alone. I stopped at the corner of the parking lot behind the building, near the dumpsters where the cigarette butts collect like confessions. I turned around slowly, and there she was, arms wrapped around herself, shoulders trembling even though it wasn't that cold. She looked so small, smaller than I remembered, and for a split second, I wondered how many times she'd walked away from me emotionally before I ever noticed the first step. "I didn't know you saw us," she said finally, her voice paper thin. "You keep saying that like it matters." "I didn't sleep with him." "Stop saying that." I snapped louder than I intended. "This isn't about sex, Dana. It's about the fact that you emotionally left me months ago and hoped I'd be too numb to notice." She blinked fast, tears gathering again. I was lost. I didn't know who I was anymore. I felt like a shell in our house. "You never touched me. You never looked at me the same. And you never said a word." I interrupted. "You let resentment pile up like laundry you refused to fold, and instead of talking to me, you smiled at someone else. You chose silence until the night you decided you'd rather cry in a club bathroom than sit next to me on the couch." She wiped her face, angry now. "I cried because I knew I was making a mistake." "No. You cried because I caught you making it." The silence between us stretched thin, brittle like glass. I could see it in her face, the panic, the realization, the helplessness of a person who never imagined the other person might actually leave. She thought I'd yell, cry, rage, sleep in the car maybe. But not this. Not a calm, quiet exit. Not a man who had nothing left to bargain with. She stepped closer. "Let's go home. Please. Let's talk like adults. Let's figure this out." I didn't move. You don't get to use the word home like it means something anymore. She flinched, but I wasn't done. "You know what I was doing the night you went to meet him? I wasn't tracking you, Dana. I wasn't plotting. I was in the kitchen reheating leftovers, thinking about how to tell you I was ready to try counseling. I'd even looked up names. I thought maybe we could fix it." Her hand covered her mouth. "And while I was doing that," I continued, "you were outside laughing with someone who didn't love you. Someone who just liked that you were broken." She didn't deny it. This time, she didn't even try. No more excuses. No more half-lies wrapped in self-pity. Just her standing in a cracked parking lot behind a stranger's apartment, looking at the man she thought would always stay. But I didn't. And I wouldn't. Because something finally broke inside me in the best way possible. Not my heart. My habit of forgiving people just because they cried. She followed me all the way back to the rental. Didn't say another word. Just walked behind me like a shadow that couldn't quite catch up. When I reached the door, I didn't invite her in. I didn't need another scene. I didn't want her sitting on some stranger's couch pretending we could just rewind this disaster like it was a sitcom argument with a happy ending queued up in the script. She stood there in the doorway anyway, like a kid who didn't know if she was grounded or forgiven. Then finally, she said it. "I'm sorry." Not loud, not dramatic. Just those two pathetic words, soaked in whatever version of regret she could muster. But it didn't land. It didn't move anything in me. Because apologies that come only after the consequences aren't real. They're survival tactics. And I wasn't interested in helping her survive what she broke. I turned my back to her and sat down, my back facing the door, letting the silence hang heavy again. I half hoped she'd take the hint and walk away. But she didn't. Of course not. I kept telling myself I wasn't doing anything wrong, she said from the threshold. "I needed attention, Troy. I needed to feel like I mattered again." "And you didn't think maybe your husband could have helped with that?" I asked without looking at her. "I didn't think you wanted me anymore. You were always tired, distracted, barely touched me." I stood then, slowly, because I wanted her to see my face when I said it. You stopped being someone I could touch the second you stopped being emotionally present. You want to know why I was tired, Dana? Because I was carrying the weight of two people pretending everything was fine. She stepped inside now, slowly, like she was testing how far she could push. Troy, I didn't plan for this to happen. You keep saying that like it matters. She blinked. You didn't plan it, sure. But you also didn't stop it. You let it build. You nurtured it. You dressed up for it. You left your ring for it. That wasn't a mistake, Dana. That was a strategy. The way her face crumpled. God, I almost felt something. I almost felt pity. But then I remembered every Thursday she came home late without explanation, every cold shoulder she gave me in bed, every fake laugh when I tried to suggest a weekend away, just the two of us. She didn't want to heal. She wanted to escape. But now that she'd burned the bridge, she wanted to run back across the ashes. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. You already did. She stepped forward again, but I shook my head. This isn't a test. This isn't a punishment. This is me finally realizing I deserve a love that doesn't have to be doubted every night. She swallowed hard. What are you saying? I'm saying we're done. There. I'd said it. Not screamed it. Not thrown it. Just placed it between us like a clean knife on the table. And it cut deep. Her lip trembled, her shoulders dropped, and I swear, for the first time in years, she looked small in a way that no amount of makeup or tight dresses or attention could fix. She turned slowly, walked to the door, but right before she stepped out, she looked back at me one last time, and she said, "You'll never find someone who loved you the way I did." And I replied, without blinking, "I really hope not." She left, and I didn't close the door after her. I let the cold air in, because for the first time in years, I could finally breathe. I didn't move for a while after she left. I just stood there in the open doorway, letting the cold morning breeze wrap around me like a reset. The apartment was still, quiet in a way I hadn't experienced in years. No passive-aggressive sighs from the other room. No low-volume phone calls she'd pretend I couldn't hear. Just peace. For the first time in forever, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't rehearsing conversations in my head. I wasn't bracing for distance disguised as politeness. The weight I'd been dragging for years, trying to fix something she'd already walked away from emotionally, was finally off my shoulders. I sat down and let that realization settle in. Later that morning, I packed my things again. Not to run this time, but to move forward. I didn't go back to our house. I contacted a friend from college, Mason, who ran a small graphic design firm 3 hours away. He'd offered me a job a year ago, but I said no because Dana wouldn't want to leave the city. This time, I called him back. His response was short. "You start Monday. Let's get you out of that mess." And I did. 3 days later, I signed a lease on a small apartment above a bookstore in a town I'd never really explored. I traded the silence of disappointment for the kind that comes with clean slates. I didn't hear from Dana again. Not right away. She sent a few texts, sure. Something about closure, something about how she still loved me, but I didn't answer. Because love that's only spoken after betrayal isn't love. It's regret. And regret doesn't build anything. It's been 6 months now. I'm not going to sit here and say it was all easy. Healing is messy. Some nights I still catch myself scrolling through old photos, wondering if it was ever really real. But here's the thing. I'm laughing again. I'm sleeping. I wake up excited about my day. I joined a cycling group. I started painting again, badly, but it makes me feel alive. I even caught myself humming in the kitchen last week while making breakfast. Last month, I met someone. Her name's Brenna. She's nothing like Dana, and that's exactly why I noticed her. She doesn't play games. She talks with her whole heart, even when it's hard. We're not rushing anything, just coffee and long walks for now. But for the first time in a long time, I don't feel like I'm auditioning for love. I'm just showing up as I am. And you know what? That's enough. Because sometimes, losing the person you thought you couldn't live without is exactly what saves you. And if Dana ever wonders how I'm doing, she won't need to ask. She'll hear it in the silence. I'm finally okay.